Welcome to the Aesthetic Doctor Podcast. We don't shy away and keep secrets here. We empower you with education, telling you the truth about all things aesthetic medicine while encouraging you to be the best version of yourself. It's time to look great and feel good doing it. This is your host, mom, speaker, and board-certified physician, Dr. Judith Borger.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 101 of the Aesthetic Doctor Podcast. I am Dr. Judith Borger. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by board-certified dermatologist and skincare influencer and educator, Dr. Brooke Jeffy from Scottsdale, Arizona. Dr. Jeffy is a board-certified dermatologist and the founder of the youth skincare brand BTWN. Dr. Jeffy takes a holistic approach to skin health and is particularly passionate about helping adolescents create skin habits for a lifetime of healthy skin. She has a direct pay concierge practice in North Scottsdale where she practices general derm and aesthetics. I'm so excited to have Dr. Jeffy here as we talk about this phenomenon and the era of Sephora kids and how to really create healthy skincare for teens and adolescents. Well, Dr. Jeffy, I'm so excited you're joining us today on the Aesthetic Doctor Podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this conversation.
Well, you are sort of a viral internet sensation, and I totally love that about you. I followed you on Instagram where you have, I think last I checked, it was a little over 75,000 followers. Is that your main platform, Instagram, then?
It is.
Yeah, and I love how on Instagram, you're really one of those voices that I think needs to be heard, because one of the reasons I started this podcast is to really combat all these things that like the TikTok influencers were talking about, or certain celebrities that market certain things, like ready to have those of us who are physicians or other experts really get our voices out there and share information that like needs to be heard and is like hopefully doesn't get lost in the sea of misinformation.
Exactly. That is why I do it. I have to say, I am not someone that necessarily loves being in front of the camera or loves necessarily the time that has to go into creating this content, but I do think it is just so incredibly necessary, and especially for the audience that I generally am talking to, younger kids and their parents. It's just like so much misinformation out there. So I felt like someone needed to address it.
How did you get started? Was there a specific point, a specific like thing that happened, or did it just slowly and gradually build?
The entire reason I started, again, I did see this kind of missing piece in the education out there and really like someone that needed to get in there and help educate, especially on younger skin. But I also knew that I was thinking about at that point developing a skincare line for kids. So it was a little bit strategic for me in that I wanted to sort of cultivate a community that could benefit from that product and I could get my voice out there as more of an expert in this space. So there was a little calculation behind it in terms of like why I started on social media.
I think that's really brilliant, right? Like from a marketing standpoint, right? It's really brilliant
Correct.
to grow your audience and then launch a product, but also you're really helping like a lot of people, not only because your content is obviously being consumed, it's free, it's medically accurate. And then of course your brand that we'll get into a little bit more is also like safe skincare for that age group. I'm not a dermatologist, but even in like my med spa, the amount of patients that have dragged their kids in and they're broken out, they're clogged, they're irritated, they're getting super infections from their drunk elephant and all of their crazy 18-step routines that they don't need to be doing, like for so many reasons. So I love that you're doing that. Let's sort of start at the beginning. Like this whole craze about what we call the Sephora kids is crazy. Why do you think it happened? Is social media the only thing to blame, or how do you think it happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know that it would have happened without social media. I do think it sort of is related to things that we all experienced growing up. Like you want to do what you see your mom or your older sister or cousin doing. And then also we want to feel like we're fitting in. I think that's a huge driver of it. And I don't think that the brand awareness for all these viral brands that the Sephora kids want, I don't think that they would have that knowledge if it weren't for social media, both seeing their friends using it and people that they look up to, maybe celebrities, other influencers, but also a way that the brands are like infiltrating that and getting in front of these kids. But I think it's so interesting. So I'm always asking when I see patients in this demographic, like, why are you using this product? What made you choose this one? And it's really shocking to me how often they say, well, it looks cool. Or they'll even tell me like, oh yeah, I used it and it tore up my skin, but I still keep it because it looks nice on my sink. People can see that I have it. It's a status symbol thing.
Oh, that's so interesting. Sort of skincare as a status symbol. The Louis Vuitton purses and the La Mer in their moms or whatever it is.
Exactly, exactly. And the interesting thing is, it's like when I was that age, it would be like a certain brand of jeans or something, or a certain purse. And those things, they couldn't hurt me if I got my hands on them. Like, so that's really the difference here is that these products, like you alluded to, like we see consequences from kids using them when they really shouldn't be using certain actives.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. And the other thing that I thought about as you were talking was back in the day, we had like the beauty magazines. And social media has sort of replaced that, right? Like TikTok is everybody's beauty magazine, except for you don't even have that semi-medically trained editor, right? Or at least the conscious editor. It's a
Right.
lot of people with ties to the lines or that
Mhm.
get direct kickbacks from either sponsorships or how many product gets sold through their TikTok shop or affiliate link or whatever it is. But you brought up this point about sort of skincare hurting kids. And you and I see that all the time as physicians. But for those of our listeners who are kind of the general public, can you just explain like which are some of the ingredients that young skin should stay away from and how they can actually be harmful?
Yeah, so the issue is that kids' skin is going to be much more sensitive, especially like those kids who have not entered puberty yet. So they're not really making very much oil, which helps the skin be a little bit more tolerant. So they're more sensitive to actives that can be a bit irritating that adults might tolerate just fine and get some benefit from. So, and that's another thing too, like some of these products, these actives, like kids don't really have the problems that they address. So it's all just risk, no reward. Specifically, things like retinoids, which are in a lot of viral favorites out there right now. But retinoids, vitamin C's, harsh scrubs, really heavily fragranced products. What these can do is irritate the skin barrier. It gets even more sensitive, more reactive to things that we're putting on it. And then you start to see things like breakouts or rashes. I have even had a few kids have hyperpigmentation. It has resolved, but it has taken months. And it's very traumatizing, especially when these kids who, some of them who are interested in using some of these products, like they're very focused on their appearance. And it's not an easy conversation when I'm telling them, look, these products that you're using, like this is what the problem is, right? So I think just have to be aware that we need to let kids use some of these products, but steer them to safer products within these lines. So things like cleansers tend to be a little bit more easily tolerated because they're going to be washed off. And then moisturizers, and of course sunscreen. And that's the other thing that drives me insane around this topic is there's all sorts of chatter about different products, but like inactives, but very little chatter about sunscreen, which is like the number one thing a kiddo can do.
Or even like things that have said sunscreen's harmful, right? Which
That's
was like the latest crazy thing, right? Not just the we're ignoring sunscreen, but actually putting this idea out there that the chemicals in sunscreen are so harmful.
Yeah, and I think that's more of a like parent on the child influence because I don't really hear that coming out of kids' mouths very much, but it's the parent who has those concerns. I think if a company could really position and focus on a sunscreen, they could get kids to buy that as long as the parent is okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for explaining that. And of course, other than the harm, it's also like all the money spent, all that sort of, it almost feels like a little slimy and dirty to sort of take advantage of these easily influenced, sometimes, like you said, even pubescent sort of children, and trying to almost get them to buy skincare that you and I know are meant for mature skin and not for them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's brands that a few viral brands in the space that have taken advantage. They've been around a long time before the Sephora kid phenomena really took off, but they've taken advantage of their position and their ability to appeal to kids, even though maybe they're not entirely trying to do that. But now they're actually to the point where some of these brands are getting some backlash and they've sort of focused on capitalizing in that younger space and it's turned away the adults that like they built the brand to serve. So we are seeing that evolution in the space as well, which is interesting. And then now there are more brands that are being brought to market that say they are for kids. I say that because there's very few that I think truly are perfect for kids.
So, talking about things that are safe for kids, when I have somebody bring their teen or bring their teen for facials or teen with concerns, and I'm a little bit in a derm desert, right? I don't claim to be a dermatologist, but there is still places out there where you sort of get me or the unsupervised derm NP. So, what I generally say is we do a gentle cleanser, a non-comedogenic moisturizer, and then, yes, we recommend like a sunscreen to anybody. And then we kind of say, you know what, if you really want to have a skincare routine, this is what's great. And then, of course, if acne comes in, that's a different story. But for your regular teen that just wants to do something, that's generally the recommendation that we give. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I do agree with that. I think less is more, keeping it kind of simple in that framework that you mentioned. I do often try to have a conversation with kids about like, hey, what is it that, in this 12-step program you've brought me, what brand is it in here that like you really feel like you are passionate about wanting to use? And I will try to work with that. And so if they want to use a facial mist and that doesn't seem to be causing them a problem, or it's their favorite Tower 28 hypochlorous acid spray, fine. Like I try to work with them so they don't feel like it's like, no, you can't do any of these things. Like we still want to work with them a little bit. But I did want to also highlight your point that sometimes gets missed is, of course, all those things that I mentioned that are challenging for kids to sometimes use, not talking about acne. Like we do certainly recommend retinoids and sometimes other actives to help with pigment if a tween or teen is experiencing breakouts. But I will say, as a dermatologist, it is often a struggle to incorporate those things because you have to balance that irritation because we don't want that irritation, which can damage the skin barrier and make it be flares. So it can kind of get into a cycle. But I do want to be sure that is clear. Sometimes we do need retinoids in kids.
Right. And sometimes you need some acid washes, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
oxide is still like first line, and so is a mild retinoid, right? And again, that is medically guided,
Right.
not just like your 11-year-old picking it off the Sephora shelf and mixing it with 23 other things to make a beautiful rainbow of ombre products in their mini fridge, which I love those little fridges. Is
They
there
are very
actually
cute.
any benefit to refrigerating your skincare products? Because I've never done it. I have always heard to shield them from direct sunlight and keep them at room temperature. Now, I think the mini fridge is also something that was sort of invented by Sephora kids. So while I have you, what's the benefit of the mini fridge?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really think there is a specific benefit of it. I do think it's nice sometimes to have like an eye patch that you've kept refrigerated. I do that with some that I have, but it always kind of cracks me up when I'll see one of these mini fridges get cracked open and it's like all these eye puffiness products and facial, and I'm like, what puffiness are we dealing with here?
Wait till you hit our age. We'll age ourselves and be like, just you wait.
Exactly.
I don't know. There's a lot of teenage heartbreak. There might be like more eye puffiness from crying upsetting than we're ever.
Yeah, okay. A one-off thing like that, sure.
But you're right. I love my little rollers for those occasions, the ones that you put in the fridge. So to help solve that problem, you also launched a skincare line that is made for, I don't know what you call the category, teenage skin, young people's skin. Tell us all about it and what is really sort of the benefit of that line and how it was formulated.
Yeah, so I say it's for tweens and teens or tweenagers. Basically safe for 6+, but I would say most of the time I see the interest here happen at 9. Sometimes you'll have younger kids in the mix too. But really, I started formulating this and creating the brand in 2022. So I kind of just noticed that more parents and kids were talking to me about skincare products. And all that they really had was sort of what was at the drugstore that was kind of marketed to them. And so I really kind of appreciated this white space there. And of course, it does take a while to bring a product and brand to market. So we launched in October of 2023. But the whole point of the brand and what I will always stay true to is products that a child needs. So right now we just have two products, a cleanser and a moisturizer. We will be bringing a sunscreen into the mix soon to kind of complete the basic line. But the point is for it to feel elevated for the kiddo using it, but that the parent can feel good about what they've purchased. So the products will always be fragrance free. I feel very strongly about that, even though that may be a little detrimental sometimes to us. But I think I'm passionate that's the way to go. But fragrance free, non-comedogenic, just really hydrating to the skin barrier without stripping it, and a real focus on just making the skin barrier happy. So there's a few antioxidants in there, and it's just good, clean hydration and cleansing without worry that you're going to harm the skin.
I love that. And for those of you who are listening, it's called Between, and it's BTWN, which is so clever. It's got really appealing kind of graphic design and packaging. I love the little smiley face of it. And you also, on that Instagram, do some great education, like what age should we be using an eye cream, for example, and just this idea that while any eye cream might not be harmful, just again, a lot of them are not formulated for 8-year-old skin, right? They're formulated for women and men in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. And so again, I love the education. As far as the line goes, if somebody is interested in it, is it only direct to consumer on a website? Do you carry it in stores? How can people learn more about it and get their hands on it?
Yes, so currently available DTC, so through the website, BTWN.com, and then out of my office. So if you live in the Scottsdale, Arizona area, you can come and find me. I am hoping to launch a wholesale program soon, so I would really love, that's kind of like the next goal for Between, is to be carried in some pediatrician and dermatology offices across the country, because I do really feel like it's important that it comes from a place of like a professional. Like I do love that aspect of it. So that's the goal. So we hope to expand there. No plans for Sephora at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to fight all the drunk elephants and all of the things. And I think again, what it sounds like what you're creating also is a very elevated experience. And like brands like SkinCeuticals and other brands that are really more dermaceutical have
Mhm.
really kind of achieved that, where the only place you can truly buy it is through dermatology offices or med spas like mine, where you have to have a professional license because a lot of others could be fake. So in a way, there's also, with your mission, there's also a great thing, because I'm sure Sephora too, for its skincare line, is somewhat a race to the bottom. I mean, not that I know about
Yeah, no,
that, but
but yeah, I know. I love the idea of the education piece kind of going along with it. Just whoever's providing the product can be a resource to that person to kind of be sure that they're getting guided in the right direction.
so where do you see sort of skincare or beauty trends for that age group going in 25? It's almost 26 and beyond.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the trend is going to continue and escalate. I mean, I just don't think our world is changing in terms of like social media and pressure to look a certain way. But like I said earlier, there are some brands, I mean, obviously my brand, but there's some other brands trying to get into this space too. And they are going a bit in the right direction by not having these actives that I talked about, but they still kind of make, to me, some compromises. But at least there's like some chatter and some development happening in that space. But I was recently asked to comment on the fact that there was a study that came out just reporting the amount of toxin that kids that at certain ages had been used. And I think this was back in 2022. And it was like over 55,000 kids 17 and under had experienced toxin, Botox. So that was, yeah, that was like
That
3
is
years ago.
shocking.
So, I mean, it's not even FDA approved until 18, so I don't know what these people are doing or exactly what it's for, but I have to imagine that number has only increased, and this focus on appearance and how that affects our confidence just continues to grow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously social media is not going anywhere. And so, yeah, I mean, again, thank you so much for the work that you do. If you were to give all of our listeners, especially listeners with, kids in that age group, maybe from the like preteen all the way to adulthood, what advice would you give them?
I would say just try to keep it a little more simple. Focusing on a cleanser, a moisturizer, that sunscreen, because that is really going to go the furthest in addressing the issues addressing the changes over time. Every dermatologist will tell you the one thing that they wish they had done was start wearing sunscreen diligently earlier. So take that advice. And then I think if you're a parent trying to navigate some of these more viral brands with your kiddo, if they won't let up about it, just keep it to a cleanser and that'll keep them pretty safe.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We're kind of battling, right? The viralness, we're battling all of the commercial and then also peer pressure, right? Like when, your neighbor friend next door has the full skincare fridge. And like you said, skincare has become a status symbol for some of these kids. So I do also love your idea for providers to kind of work with what do kids like about this. For example, like you brought up those myths, like if they want to spray a little rose water, it's probably going to be just fine, like,
Right.
and then there's limits. So you're absolutely viral. I love that you've given us your time. Thank you so much. Before we go, will you just tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you, what spaces you hang out with? And we will, of course, put everything in the show notes. So I always say this, if you're driving, don't try to write it down now, just go to the show notes later.
So you can find me most actively on Instagram at Brooke Jeffy MD. I do spend a little bit of time on TikTok and a little bit of time on YouTube. I do have plans over the coming year to be a little more active on YouTube, but all of those have the same handles. And then my handle for Between on the same channels is at Meet Between, MEETBTWN. And then my website is brookejeffymd.com.
And then you're obviously located in Scottsdale, if anybody is in the area. Now, a question that I ask everybody, you obviously have the most beautiful skin. And that's another thing I love about your about your Instagram. You just mentioned TikToks, but about your Instagram is that you show up the real you. So many times, I mean, you flaunt your beautiful skin, but you might show up and do a video with like no eye makeup, which I totally love because again, it's representing confidence in a different way. It's representing being real, and it's also kind of taking care of that little bit of social media distortion, right? Because we sometimes like this is how I want to work today. Okay, like it's scrubs with a cardigan and like a little bit of mascara, and that's it. So I also love that you show up like that. So I wanted to make sure to say that. But before you go, with your glowing skin, I ask everybody who's in the industry, what is your favorite procedure to get? And what is your favorite procedure to perform?
Favorite procedure to get is probably microneedling with various serums that I will throw into the mix. Favorite procedure to perform is not one I do terribly often because it's intense, but Ellacore, microcoring. I love doing that procedure, just the intensity, the commitment to it, and the results. I think it's a great, very unique and up and coming treatment.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here, sharing your expertise, sharing your time. And everybody, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Aesthetic Doctor podcast with Dr. Judith Borger. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. Follow Dr. Borger on Instagram at Dr. Borger and find more online and ways to work with Dr. Borger at www.theaestheticdoctor.com. Until next time, be well.